This is an extract from the Leader Coronavirus Daily podcast by the Evening Standard and hosted by me, David Marsland. To hear the whole thing, search for it on your podcast provider. Hallelujah, they cried in the Commons as the Prime Minister confirmed pubs will be able to reopen from July 4th, and he didn't stop there.
Almost as eagerly awaited as a pint will be a haircut, particularly by me, Mr. Speaker, and so we will reopen hairdressers with appropriate precautions, including the use of visors.
But there'll be none of this in churches. They can reopen, but singing remains banned. This isn't quite the end of lockdown. Much of the restriction lifting comes with caveats. The blanket 2-metre social distancing rule is out where it's not possible, like public transport. So 1 metre is in, but it's plus mitigation. Wear a mask, keep your chat short. We will not be returning to normal. Nevertheless, our editorial column says it's a welcome step forward.
Society needs to find a way to open up while controlling the threat of the virus. Other countries around the world have shown that it can be done, provided people stay aware of the risks and healthcare systems respond quickly to any sudden outbreaks. We can do it in Britain. It is safe to visit our great museums and galleries, and safe, if rules are followed, to eat out and drink in pubs. How they cope with the costs of social distancing is another matter. But London is returning to life after lockdown, and the government is right to be leading the way.
But will everywhere that can reopen actually reopen? The Evening Standard's Lizzie Edmonds is with me over Zoom. And Lizzie, you've been talking to some of those art galleries and museums that are being given the green light to get people back in. But there's still lots of rules and regulations. So can they actually do it?
Well, that's a very good question, really, because, yes, they've been given the green light, as you say, for a couple of weeks' time. And whether or not they will open immediately on July the 4th, just because they can, doesn't mean they will. They've got a lot of considerations to take into account, that being, you know, a lot of our famous galleries and a lot of our famous museums rely on a huge tourism sector. You know, kind of almost half of the people that are through their doors every day are tourists. Obviously, they don't exist at the moment. We haven't really got the tourism industry back up and running. So perhaps even, you know, a capacity of about 30% of the people they usually have through the doors coming in, perhaps. And is that going to be enough for a lot of them to justify opening their doors, paying specialist staff, you know, a lot of staff, because these venues are large, most of them, you know, it's not a handful of staff, it's a lot of them, and the considerations they have to take into that. So most of the galleries and most of the museums are looking for a summer opening, but more to mid-July, late July into August.
But there must be, having been closed for so long, there must be a financial pressure on a lot of these ones, I guess, particularly the smaller museums.
Yes, there's a huge financial problem for a lot of our famous and very important cultural institutions to London and to the UK. I mean, as you say, they haven't been open it'll be 4 months if we're looking at a mid-July to late July opening. That's a long time. It's going to be catastrophic for a lot of them, and a lot of them will have to have that very hard decision and hard conversations of can we do this? Can we open again? A lot of directors were very worried about how many people would come through the doors, because a lot of them do rely nowadays on ticket sales and, you know, the gift shop and cafes and things like that, because government grants aren't as generous as they have been before. So yeah, we will see some casualties. I think that's almost certain.
One thing that could work in some of these buildings' favour is their size of them. You know, if you think of going into something like the Turbine Hall in the Tate Modern, it should be relatively easy to socially distance there, shouldn't it?
Yes, I don't think our galleries and museums have a space issue. They're not facing the same challenges as our gyms are or our restaurants are. Some of our institutions have huge amounts of space, so that's going to be great. I think especially for families facing a long summer holiday after a long a long few months of school homeschooling will be desperate to have something to do with kids. So it's just whether or not they can get enough people back to make it viable for them.
But there are other areas such as theatres which still will remain closed. London, even with its museums open, isn't going to be the London we know from previous summers, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, at the beginning of the pandemic, everyone was saying, "Oh, these are unprecedented circumstances," and now it feels like everyone, the new kind of zeitgeist is to say that it's the new normal. And I think it will be very strange for a lot of people going to all these museums and galleries and cinemas, and it not really being the same. It's just going to be very different, or not coming into contact with people in the same way. I mean, I think, as I've said, the museums and galleries have a fortunate position in that a lot of them aren't particularly overpopulated. Yes, okay, the big kind of blockbuster exhibitions, you would have hundreds of people through the doors every day, but a lot of the galleries are quite quiet, and that's what a lot of people love about them, about going to a museum, going to a gallery, having some time, having some space to yourself. So that won't change, but then you will have the inevitable sanitizing, you will have the inevitable screening, you will have, not being able to go closer to people. There will be capacities on all of the galleries and museums, that meaning that not that many people could go in. So, and wider, our cultural institutions will take a hit. As you say, theatres probably not going to be open this year. Restaurants, yes, but it's not going to be the same as, gathering around tables and eating and drinking with your friends. It's going to be very different, and I think it will take a while to adjust.
Search for the Leader Coronavirus Daily on any podcast provider to hear more from the podcast.